Hi everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you had a restorative time with your loved ones. Our family battled the plague. All of us got sick at different intervals with different things, and I think kept reinfecting one another. So that was not ideal, not this restorative holiday that maybe we had hoped, but we persevered, we made it through, and we are emerging into 2026 with a renewed appreciation for health. that was our takeaway, that times of sickness can fortify our resolve to stay healthy and prevent sickness, but also to give us appreciation of the times where we're not sick and we are healthy, which thankfully is most of the time, and also give us greater empathy for people who do endure day-to-day suffering and ill health and hardship physically, which is the case for so many people in the world. So a chance to feel grateful from that kind of trying time. But I hope you had a great holiday, and I am very excited to share several things that are on the horizon in 2026. Most of all is the launch of the Civic Renaissance tour. I have been in 100 and close to 40 cities and 5 countries since my book, The Soul of Civility, came out in October of 2023. And every time I visited a community, people said, "This is great. I love your book. I love your talk. I love these ideas. Now what?" And the Civic Renaissance tour is the response to that question of now what? How do we put into practice and live out these ideals? And it also marks kind of the end of the book tour and into the implementation phase of my book and this work. So I see myself as less of a keynote and more of a civic architect. I am so excited to be launching the Civic Renaissance tour here in Indiana in Shelbyville, January 29th. It's First Church of Shelbyville is hosting me for this community-wide event. I was contacted by a pastor there, and he said, I came across your work, and I thought you were the perfect person to synthesize and catalyze a community-wide initiative around renewal and civility and community. And so we will kick off this community-wide initiative January 29th, and they're starting to read the book, The Church and the community of Shelbyville, a small town of about 25,000 people, kind of southeast of where I live. And then I will come, and so that kind of kicks off what I call the discover phase. And the whole purpose of the Civic Renaissance Tour is to give local leaders tools and skills to live out this work day in, day out. Because this is the reality. I can't be everywhere. I don't want to be everywhere, but I want these ideas to serve people beyond me. So that's this new era of my work, of training and empowering local leaders to live this out day in and day out. So, and the Civic Renaissance Tour, when I come to a community, it's comprised of 4 phases. Phase 1 is the discover phase, and that's when a community reads my book together. It can be a workplace, it can be a school, it can be a church. And that gives a shared language, a shared sense of what are we even aiming for? What is civility versus politeness? What is authentic respect across difference? And after the discover phase is the ignite phase, and that's when I come in and I'm there for a day or 2 days. In this case of Shelbyville, again, the discover phase is starting now. They're reading my book together as a church and as a community. And then when I'm there on January 29th, that'll be a community-wide public event that you are all invited to. And that'll be an opportunity to dive deep into the ideas of the book. And I'm happy to talk and share a bit about my story, why I wrote this book, and difference between civility and politeness, and why we need to recover a high view of personhood and humanity and a view of civility grounded in human dignity to be an antidote to these dehumanizing times. And that is the ignite phase, to get the community excited. And the following day, we will also have a community leaders roundtable where we'll dive in. Everyone there will have read the book. They'll have been at the evening event the night before. And now we answer that question that I get asked all the time. Now what? And that's what we'll put into place and put on paper a plan. What does this work look like in education here in Shelbyville? What does it look like in the religious and faith and spiritual communities, in the civic communities? And we'll have leaders from legal communities, from private sector, from business, from industry, at the table, at that leaders round table. And we'll say, okay, now what? And that's where we put into this action item. And then after that ignite phase where I'm physically there, that launches the embody phase. And that's where these local leaders at First Church of Shelbyville, leaders from the different sectors within the community, that is when they live it out. And we put into practice the kind of blueprint of social and civic action that we devised at the Leaders Roundtable. And then culminating after the embody phase is celebrate. It was such a privilege to help convene 100 leaders from across 17 states and Canada at the Carmel Civility Summit back in September. And so many people there, both who came and who didn't come, who weren't able to make it, said to me, I want to have my own civility summit in my own community. And I said, that's great, let's do it. And so this is this 4-phase model of social transformation, discover, ignite, embody, celebrate, is meant to give local leaders who are excited about this, who want to foster these ideas in their community, again, the tools and the time and the and skills and networks to have a community-wide initiative be lasting. And so it's not just, me as a speaker coming in for a day talking about nice ideas and leaving, but that my time with you is amplified because there is work on the ground being done before, during, and after I leave. And I love that this new era of my work, the Civic Renaissance Tour, it marks this new era of my book being, not the end in itself. It is a canvas. I am a catalyst for local leaders and local communities to build what they want to build. Whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's an initiative, whether it's just bringing the book and these ideas and conversations to your community and then seeking to live it out in an ongoing way. That is the whole purpose. That's the whole plan. And Shelbyville is just the beginning. That's happening in just a few weeks. But we'll be in Colorado Springs, we'll be in Urbandale, Iowa, we'll be in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we'll be in London, England. This is not just national, it's global. There are so many exciting things in the works. And so if you're interested in drawing down these tools of civic renewal, I'd love to speak with you. I'd love to share more with you about what this looks like and what other communities are doing. And I want to encourage every single one of you who is part of Civic Renaissance that you don't have to be a person with an enormous amount who knows a lot of people, has a lot of social capital, or someone who feels relatively powerful already, that you are powerful right here, right now. And this is the whole message of my book, that you have way more power to be a part of the solution to our dehumanizing and divided time than we realize. And that's why I invite you to join. If you want to be a part of the solution, join the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Program. We're coming to conclusion of cohort 1. There we had mayors, we had Ivy League professors, we had federal judges, we had this unbelievable array with therapists, just national security experts, this interdisciplinary group of people who have found value in my work and they want to build something of lasting impact in their community around these ideas. And it's been my privilege to support them and learn from them and learn how these ideas do affect and can help and have relevance to different areas, different walks of life, people of different walks of life. So that's been such a privilege. The first cohort of the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Program has been an enormous success, and that's many of those ambassadors are now hosting initiatives in their communities and are part of the Civic Renaissance Tour this this in 2026 and into 2027. And now I've already opened up enrollment and applications for the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Cohort number 2. And there we have, and so far, some people we already have confirmed and committed. We have city councilors, we have state legislators, we have sports professionals, we have celebrities. And I don't share this with you I don't want you to come because you want to be around other important people. That's not the point. Like we're a group of people that are convening around a shared passion for a set of ideas. And the set of ideas are about civic, multidimensional, trying to foster an era of multidimensional human flourishing, an era of civic, moral, and intellectual renewal, which is what the whole project of Civic Renaissance is. And it's not about me. It's not about the book. That I wrote my book, The Soul of Civility, to be a tool to this broader project of multidimensional human flourishing and multidimensional community renewal. And the Ambassador Cohort and Program is a way that I'm choosing to invest in these local leaders who want to do this in their different walks of life. And I want to share with you a story to encourage you. I read this article over the holiday when I was in this kind of quasi-sick, resting kind of delirium, but it was so beautiful, so impactful. And it illustrates the unbelievable, extraordinary power of ordinary things. And I want this to encourage you to choose to be a part of the solution right here, right now, whether it is choosing to be part of the Civic Renaissance Tour or choosing to even apply to become a Civic Renaissance ambassador, or just choosing to gather a few friends and read my book together and say, hey, I care about renewal and I want to lead this conversation right where I am. The story opens at a hospital in northern England, and I'll link to the full story so you can read it yourself. And it tells the story of a gentleman named Mohammed. Mohammed was the eldest son of a Muslim family in England, and despite being someone who had, he was married, he had children, his wife was pregnant, he had parents who, came from a stable home, he always felt like he was a failure and always felt like he was a profound disappointment to his family and to everyone around him in a very kind of male-centered society like this Islamic household. He felt like he never lived up to his parents' expectations about what a firstborn son should do. He couldn't hold a job. He didn't finish, his education. And he, just felt like a failure, had a really low sense of self-esteem. Throughout his whole life, he was bullied. He was picked on relentlessly. It was like he was weak and hated himself. And people, who abused power and used dominating others to feel better about themselves saw that and relentlessly abused him in every area of his life. He was, had to move schools several times because of bullies. And, finally, after a life of self-loathing, a life of feeling like a failure, he thinks maybe he's stumbled on something that he can be good at. He decides to go into nursing, and he takes a nursing program and is doing his training at a local hospital in northern England. And there again, some nurses as who were part of his cohort and had authority over him, abused him and bullied him relentlessly. And he was deeply lonely and deeply hurting and deeply wounded, which is such an interesting insight to me that we live in a crisis of loneliness. And yet you don't literally have to be isolated in the forest with no one around you to be lonely. Like, he's someone who had a wife, he had kids, he had family. And yet he was deeply lonely and deeply wounded. So it's not about, loneliness isn't about not having people around you. It's not feeling seen in the relationships that you do have. And I think that's a really fascinating insight. So anyway, full of self-loathing, full of loneliness. And he decided enough was enough. He had spent a lot of time on TikTok. He had a lot of companionship on social media. He even once found friends online who scammed him, which only fed into his spiral of self-loathing and self-viciousness. And one day he said, I'm going to show these nurses, like, I've been bullied my whole life. I'm going to take a stand and I'm done. And so he's online, and he discovers how to build a bomb at home online. And he's in his car out front of his hospital where he works and where he's been bullied by these nurses for months on end. And the article describes his car just full of garbage and junk, and then he has his briefcase with his homemade bomb in it, and he texts from an anonymous number one of the nurses who had bullied him relentlessly and said, I would get out of the building now, and I hope you can save some of the people before it's too late. Just a very ominous, malicious, threatening text. And he waits, and he really wants to see chaos. He wants to see the whole hospital go into disarray. And then nothing happens for some reason. So he's sitting in his car, he has the bomb, he's ready to go take it into the hospital. But nothing's happening after he's sent this threatening text. So he is frustrated, so he gets out of his car and he walks to the kind of vestibule of the hospital where there's the two automatic doors. He's like right in the middle there. And in the park across the street from the hospital is this guy. I think his name is Nathan. And this guy, Nathan, I'm just going to call him Nathan because I can't remember off the top of my head. This guy, Nathan, is... he sees this kind of peculiar behavior of a guy just loitering with a bag in the lobby kind of vestibule of the hospital, and he is being treated. He's a patient at the hospital, but he's just stepped outside to get some fresh air. He's had a lung infection or something, and he decides to go investigate. He decides to go and check out what's going on, and strikes up a casual conversation with him and says, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? And very quickly, just a few pleasantries exchanged before Muhammad confesses to Nathan that yes, he has a bomb in a bag at his feet, and yes, he is intending to blow up a wing of the hospital. It was the maternity ward wing of the hospital where he had planned, where he had been working, where those nurses he hated worked as well, and where he wanted to see people suffer generally because of the amount of self-loathing and hurt that he endured. And Nathan is immediately like, okay, panicking internally, but externally remains very calm and very cool and says, tell me about it. Tell me about why you're doing this. And, Muhammad confides in him, says he's overwhelmed, he's lonely, he's a disappointment, has a baby on the way. And Nathan says, wow, you have a baby on the way? Like, that's amazing. You probably get to enjoy something I will never get to enjoy. Kind of giving Muhammad a sense of power over him. And it's like, oh, wow, I have it better than this guy in front of me. And Nathan had a kind of terrible disease that he was being treated for, but it meant he was going to probably die an early death. So Nathan confides in him, Muhammad, like, oh, you even have health in a way that I'll never have. I'm going to die within a few years, he said. So again, giving Muhammad this sense of calm and kind of agency over the situation. And then Nathan says, come tell me more about your story. Let's step out of the hospital and let's go sit by this bench across the street at the park. So Muhammad agrees, and they walk across the street together, and they continue to chat, and they continue to, and he just tries to slowly through question, through mirroring, through calm, through kindness, disarm Muhammad and get him to rethink these actions that he's about to do that would hurt, untold number of people, murder, untold number of people. And finally, it gets to the point where he says, you don't have to do this. It's not too late. Like, give me your phone. Let's call the police. Let's turn yourself in. Let's end this. And amazingly, Muhammad agrees, gives Nathan his phone. He calls the police and says, hi, I'm here with a man with a bomb in front of the hospital. We're at this park, at this address. Please come immediately. And the officers come, and they, arrest both of them because they don't know who's the threat, who's not. But in the court proceedings that unfolded, it just is unbelievable. And again, the story is told, I think it was the Financial Times that I read the story in. The story is told through security cameras, through the court transcripts. They kind of pieced it together. And the judge, and at the end of the day, was just unbelievably gracious towards Nathan, the hero of the story. And he called him, and I love this phrase, like an extraordinary, ordinary man, because he ultimately saved the day. He ultimately, through nothing more than curiosity and kindness, and choosing to make someone who had been marginalized and hurt by society and people over and over and over again feel seen and known and loved in a way that he never had before. That just through these simple tools, practices of finding common humanity, that he was able to prevent this atrocity and innocent lives from being taken. The power of the extraordinary power of the ordinary. I love that judge recognized that. And these are superpowers that we can each cultivate right here, right now. We have no idea the hurt that hides behind the eyes of other human beings that we encounter. And it's so easy to judge and so easy to assume that we have the whole story when we don't. And, Nathan very humbly said, I don't think I did anything of note. I just did what anyone would do. And maybe he's right, but we can still celebrate him that there are heroes in the everyday, and that we can be heroic in the everyday too. And that means showing up in the small ways. It means, rising above our petty narcissisms and grudges and vindictiveness, and choosing to see, know, and love the people who are around us all the time. And we don't know what beauty and what beauty may result of that, or what harms may be avoided because of that. I remember reading once, there was a psychiatrist who often told this story about a client who was walking to the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge to commit suicide, and he said to him, this was like in his suicide note or something like that, this story, and he said, if one person smiles at me, I won't jump. And no one smiled at him, and he jumped and he took his life. And so we know that story from this therapist's client's suicide note. And it's tragic. We drastically underestimate the power we each have to make other people's lives better or worse. And so I want to encourage you, this is exactly what I have created the Civic Renaissance Ambassadors Program to do, to help each of you who choose to be part of this program reclaim your civic agency, your power, to be part of the solution in a world that wants to rob you of your agency. And this is exactly what I've created the Civic Renaissance Tour to do, to empower leaders across politics, across geography, across vocation, to say, I can't control others, but I can control myself. And I'm going to double down and make my community better and stronger right where I am. I hope that you choose to be part of the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Program, the Civic Renaissance Tour. I will add the application to the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Program. And if you are interested in being part of the Civic Renaissance Tour in 2026 or 2027, we are filling up very quickly, but please do write to me. Feel free to respond to this email and share a few ideas of what you have in mind and what you'd like to create in your community. But I am looking forward to this year and what it holds, and I'm excited for the possibility to bring to life this vision I've long had of an era of multidimensional human flourishing, where we are flourishing personally, socially, intellectually, and we are healing society through healing ourselves. We're not pointing fingers and blaming. We are making the world a better place by becoming better people and more whole, more full, more joy-filled people ourselves. So thank you for being part of the Civic Renaissance community. I'm grateful you're here, and so grateful for all that we will build together this year.